meeting tomorrow. No meeting next time because that's Christmas Eve.
So we're picking what's going to be happening in January.
You are, yeah. So this is the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It's the rest of the year for that. So.
Way to go. Way to go. Why don't you take Bitcoin?
Yeah,
Off the bat there.
I did.
I did do that.
The beginning, he's like, hey, can I be back in Bitcoin? I'm like, I don't know, okay. Cool.
All right. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing tonight?
Fine.
Is that bad? Okay, good. So whose is it their first time coming? All right. I all know who you are. So what we do when we know that there's new people, we like to kind of get how they found out about Bitcoin and also how they found out about the meetup. So we'll go ahead and start with you, sir.
Sure. My name's Bob Vaughn. I'm from Auburn. I got a notice on Meetup about it. I don't know why I got a notice, but I'm interested in blockchain, so I thought I'd come.
All right. Thanks for driving down from Auburn. Then how advanced or beginner are you?
Oh, very beginner.
Okay, very beginner.
Yes.
All right.
Danny Ligon, just been reading, I'm in the tech industry, so I've read about Bitcoin and this guy right here got me into it.
And what do you do in the tech industry?
IT manager.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not a programmer, just systems admin, network, phone, surveillance.
Are you underappreciated?
Isn't everybody?
Or, well, then there you go. Good.
Yeah.
So very good.
My name's Aaron Shar. I've been in the space since 2012, 2013. I'm a software engineer. I've worked for a few different Bitcoin exchanges in San Francisco.
Which ones?
Kraken and another one named Rain.
Oh,
Just
okay.
let me off 2 weeks ago. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we might have Kraken come present in January.
Oh, really? Who? Jesse or?
I maybe, but apparently Jesse's from Sacramento.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, he went to
sometimes-
Sac State, I think.
Yeah. So the thing is, the guy that owns the exchange Kraken, he's from Sacramento, and he also really speaks out against the regulation in the industry.
Yeah, he does.
And they were going to do the bit license in California. Or,
New York.
Yeah. New York sent him some letter, and he's just like, no, I'm just not going to reply. And so I was very happy about that, and I told all the people about that. So.
Yeah, he's a good person to have in the space, and he's a good evangelist.
So very good. So where have you been? How come you haven't been to any other meetups?
I just kind of dropped out of the space for a while, just kind of laying low, and then I just kind of, I've been following this meetup group for the past 6 months, just kind of seeing what's
Stalking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just never really made it down.
So you've been stalking us, but never showing up. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I think we have a lot of that. Well, hey, it's just down 80. It's not that far. You carpool, right? Got a couple Auburn folks here, so cool.
Troy Mitchell. I found out about the meeting from our CTO. I guess he came a while back. And
How come he's not here tonight?
He said he was going to be.
Oh.
Is that him right there?
Nope.
Nope.
No, he's not here yet. But we're doing a startup, kind of blockchain development of a new language for introducing one blockchain to many blockchains, so you can kind of cross-bridge and develop for one platform and extend in. Right? So it's an interesting startup, and we're very early in the process, but our code is like 80% of the way home, and we're very excited. But we still have to refine our value prop, and I've already had a great conversation with them. So,
Okay.
great meeting.
Cool.
And I'm Irene Ingham. I'm also in tech, but in communications, but this is our date night. So we decided to come and listen to the blockchain talk today. It's kind of our date night.
Romantic.
Isn't it?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, and the thing is, when you go on a date here, it gets distributed on the ledger, so we know who did a better job dating the other person. So everybody knows that. So everybody else is pretty much regulars. Everybody's kind of getting to know each other and all that good stuff. Some housekeeping right off the bat. Next meetup is going to be Christmas Eve. So my family still likes me mostly, so I won't be here. So we're probably not going to have a meetup. The next one will be next year, and hopefully next year things will be going better for a lot of the cryptocurrencies out there. And so before we kind of get going with presentations, did you guys enjoy the food?
Yes.
All right. So the food was because of our wonderful sponsors.
Yes.
And Marcia, go ahead and tell us about you.
I work for Shop Consulting. We also have an incubator program in town that we just started out. So we are looking for entrepreneurs that are looking to grow their business, scale their business, and if a $20,000 investment would help your business, please let me know. That's exactly what we're looking for.
That'd help us, by the way.
Cool, let's know.
So there you go. And then, Josh, what are you doing?
He's on the phone with his brother and his mom's in the hospital.
Oh, yikes. Okay. So why don't you do Josh's?
So Josh is my co-sponsor, and he works at Tech Systems. He helps employ the
3 years.
underpaid, underappreciated,
Underutilized?
No, we should all know this by now. Underappreciated,
It's three really weird.
underpaid, underappreciated, or underutilized.
I think that's what it is.
Maybe, okay, we'll go with
It's
that.
close.
Is it
That's
underutilized?
close.
Anyways,
It
if
feels
you're in
like
tech
that.
or you know somebody in tech,
Right,
talk
and
to Josh.
he's looking for long-term,
Blockchain.
programmer types, so, and he's a good guy. That's all I got.
So there you go. So all right, so we have the weekly coin pick going around, and for new people, what we do every week is you pick a coin, and whichever coin goes up the most, you win a big prize, or whichever coin goes down the least, you can also win a big prize.
Jesus,
And
what else? Available this
and
time.
the winner last week was the coin that went down the least was Ox, and so let's give it up for Charles.
What do you win, Bob?
And so you get a choice of a T-shirt, which may or may not fit you, or a XYO hat.
I'll take the hat.
All right.
Yay!
All right.
For the win.
So then there you go. So it's going around. So just go ahead and pick one, and you too could have a hat or a shirt, and all that good stuff. So yes. Oh yeah. Oh, Gigi, come on up.
I'm not a sponsor either. Thanks, Brian.
Come on up.
Anyways, so if you didn't know, this is the McClellan Innovation Center. We are a co-working space. Currently, we do have some openings for a couple of our plans, and if you would like, for this group, if you fill out one of these information cards, we can put you in a raffle for a free month of one of our guest packages.
All right. Yeah. And so they open up the space, and it's conveniently close to Auburn, right? So, so there you go. You're on the free- when you are on the highway here. So okay. So today's speaker is somebody that I didn't meet until tonight, and I like it when it happens like this. Just somebody from the community says, "Oh, hey, Brian, this person would be a great speaker," and then they come up, and then that is wonderful. And so that happened, and then underemployed, underutilized, underappreciated. Did we not say underappreciated?
No, underutilized. Is that the third one?
Yeah, well done.
Wait a minute.
Those who were underpaid, underappreciated, or underemployed.
Yeah.
So obvious.
Convinced that's a word, but it suited my purposes, so.
Well, isn't underutilized, underemployed?
Yes.
Semantics.
It is.
Unemployed, not definitely underutilized.
But before I introduce the speaker, I guess what I was going to say is next year we are just going to. Probably what we're going to do is because there's a lot of people that just like, oh yeah, I've been creeping on you for 6 months or like whatever, and I just never came. Next year we're going to send out like a lot of emails and meetup things because we're just not sending out enough and we're not reminding people enough. So I'm just warning you all. Next year you're going to get more spam from the group, and that is just how it is. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, so we do try to keep this meetup absolutely free, but we do accept donations, even dirty fiat. So if any of you have any of that, you'd like to drop in a couple bucks, that would be very much appreciated.
You have to sing the song. Bring it in the sheaves.
Bring it in the who?
Bring it in the sheaves.
I never heard that song.
You gotta go to church.
rejoicing, bring it in, she.
He's not welcome in church.
I know.
I
I got kicked out in high school. It's a long story, but.
I want to put together a dance floor called the Journey Beyond. You dance, you gotta go dance or something.
I've already gotten enough in trouble with my avant-garde.
Yeah, no kissing women.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Wearing robes.
so anyways, the sheet went around for the guessing of the coins. Yes. Okay. So, without further ado, I told our speaker today that we are a rather advanced group. Even though there are a couple new folks, it'll be a little bit on the advanced side. But without further ado, we have Maverick, and he's going to talk to us about investing in the blockchain.
Cool. Well, yeah, I didn't know sort of what to gauge as the level here, so we're just gonna try to cover all different grounds, and then we'll just do questions and just kind of see where the group wants to take it. But I'll try to kind of go through this quickly because I know we've got different levels here. But thanks for having me. This is sweet. Love the place. I love the interest and the amount of people that are showing up even during these tough times. Really hitting home, but it's okay. All right, so investing in blockchain 101. First off, who am I and what am I doing up here? I am the co-founder of GoodBits. It's made up of 3 ground students. We're taking time off right now to work on cryptocurrency education for the general public. So we've been invested for a couple years now.
3 Brown students?
Yeah, so over on the East Coast.
Oh.
Brown
Wow.
University students.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I should put the university part in there. That was my bad.
Brian's very quick.
And so now we moved out and we're living in Berkeley
Cool.
to work on GoodBit, which is, as I said before, making it really easy for anyone to invest, to learn, and to understand cryptocurrency and blockchain and safely go about that process, store it, and kind of navigate these really chaotic waters. And so in this presentation, let's just take a quick step back and ask, what is money? Then we're going to get into Bitcoin 101. Blockchain 101. Then we're going to take a look at the overall space. Where, there's all these sort of names coming up: cryptocurrency, crypto assets. Like, what exactly are we trying to do here? And let's get a big sort of macro view of that. And then how to invest in this new asset class, because it's super, super exciting. And there's a couple of things that are sort of not you don't see in the traditional finance world that are very unique to cryptocurrencies. So I'm sure you guys are all acutely aware of the financial system, but it's helpful to see what we're trying to revolutionize here. Like, let's see what the past is and how we're going forward. So imagine you're a farmer, and we're talking way back part of the system, and you're in your village and you're trying to trade for a cow, and you're trying to trade your grain. Well, bartering is a really inefficient system. It does not allow for economies of scale. It's really tough to, you're just doing one back and forth. Maybe someone has a monopoly on the cows, probably, because there's only a couple people in the village.
A cow-opoly.
The cow, exactly. Yeah, this guy.
Oh, he's on it, yeah.
Or, I know people probably were on these diets back in the day, but what if, the cow guy was gluten-free, doesn't want your damn grain? Either way, if someone doesn't want something to trade, then you can't get your cow, and this is suddenly a super inefficient system. So we thought of, okay, what if we created this sort of meta layer of value, that if we all collectively believe in the value of it, we could use it as units of measurement in the future. So we created money. We'd start off, rocks, cowrie shells, rocks with little cuts in them, sticks, whatever it was. It just needed to be a unit of measurement of debt. So I could be like, okay, I give you 3 cowrie shells, and in the future, I'll pay you back that unit of count. But here's the beautiful part about that is you could then take those cowrie shells and trade it with another person. So suddenly now economies have scaled up to allow for trade amongst many different individuals, and it's all sort of a contained system. But the key part here is that everyone needs to believe in the idea of the value of this, because a lot of the money that we see, paper, shells, whatever it was, doesn't have necessarily intrinsic value, but we as humans are able to collectively believe in this idea that it has value. So that's really important. So money is this tool that we utilize. It's really cool. And over time, it's changed in many different ways, using different animals, shells, gold coins, silver coins, paper money, and eventually started being given out by the government as a little bit more of authority to really believe in its value. And then starting to see now it's making its way onto the internet, and so this is this really big shift that's happening. And just a quick point about the money we use today, dirty fiat money. I'm sure you guys all know, it's paper money that's not backed by any intrinsically valuable asset, so it's not backed by gold. That stopped in 1973. So essentially, what we are is trusting the value or the worth of the government that is giving it out. And
It's
so
backed by military.
backed by government.
Exactly, by guns.
And you forgot the tally stick in there.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
some of the first writings of all time were on debt. Money's been very important to us. So also in this system, I'm sure you're all acutely aware that our banking is probably not the best, and this federal idea of fiat money that's we essentially have to trust somebody else with our money. They're able to print it out as much as they want, and that causes for inflation. We don't see it as bad as a problem in the U.S., but in places like Venezuela or 1920s Germany or Zimbabwe, that hyperinflation happens, and essentially your money goes to zero. I mean, people are literally running with wheelbarrows of cash in Venezuela right now just to pick up some groceries because someone just decided to overprint, and if that's not a messed up system, that's what it is. So coincidentally, around the time of the recession, some individual or group of individuals by the name Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. So enter Bitcoin. And before actually going on, I'm just going to show a quick animation that we made because I think it does pretty well job in explaining what exactly Bitcoin is.
Most of us think about money as colorful paper rectangles, like cash. But the truth is, money is constantly evolving. We used to trade chickens and cows to pay for goods and services. Then came durable gold coins, which were followed by the paper currency we use today. But the thing is, our money is controlled by banks and governments. On the surface, that works just fine. But there are some issues with this system that give you less control over your money than you might think. Since our money is just paper, governments can devalue it by printing infinitely more and more cash, making each dollar you own worth less, or even worthless. And though banks might seem safe, the 2008 financial crisis showed us just how risky the system can be. The bottom line is, when your money's in the bank, it's not really yours. Enter Bitcoin, a new kind of money that's entirely digital and doesn't need any central authority to work. Instead, Bitcoins are transferred directly between people, without going through a bank or third party of any kind. State-of-the-art cryptography secures the system, which means your money is controlled by you, and only you. Individuals around the world called miners review and validate transactions, making fraud virtually impossible. The end goal? An open financial system that allows anyone, anywhere, to participate in our global economy. Here's why Bitcoin is up to the task. It's scarce. Only 21 million will ever exist. It's fast and cheap to use. And it's global. You can use it anywhere. With Bitcoin, sending money across the world is no more expensive or time-consuming than sending money to your next-door neighbor. If you have online access, you can use Bitcoin. The internet reinvented the way we share information, making it global, instant, and accessible to all. In the same way, Bitcoin is reinventing money itself, inspiring innovation and transforming our global economy as we know it. Want to learn more? Join us at goodbit101.com.
Shameless plug. But so that kind of gives a quick overview of exactly what Bitcoin is in a little glossed over way, but kind of taking us through the evolution of money there. And just to recap, it's cheap. I'm sure this side of the room already knows most of these facts, but I'm just going to spew them out. It's cheap. You can send hundreds of millions of dollars for just cents over the market or over the protocol, which is compared to banking system is ridiculous. It's quick, so you sending money to China traditionally would take a couple of days and a large commission, but you could do it in 10 minutes with cents. It's global, so there's no sort of currency exchange problems. When you're trying to send money to another place in the world, you have to exchange your currency for their currency. Bitcoin is completely outside of government regulations or control, and so it exists completely online, and therefore it's global. And that's why it's used a lot for remittances. So if someone's living in a different country than their family and they're trying to send money back, Western Union takes 10% off the top. So if you make $100 and you send your money back to your family, they're only getting $90. So Bitcoin has become a huge huge application there, which is crazy. And kind of what the uniqueness of what Bitcoin did, because there's been a lot of digital currencies that have tried to come out, ever since the internet was invented. But the one problem was, when digital money exists, when people try to create it, you could just copy paste it, right? And so traditionally we've used things like PayPal or some sort of banking system that has a third party look over this ledger of transactions for us, so we have to trust them. And Bitcoin, the beauty that it did was make digital scarcity. So it's something that you cannot copy paste, and you don't need a third party to look over in order to verify that the transactions are legit. And this last one,
Most of us
I really want to hone in, it's peer-to-peer. So as I was just mentioning, most of our money has to go through some sort of third party, like a bank, PayPal, Venmo, whatever it is. And that causes fraud, that causes people skimming off the top, large commissions. It's just not a good system. But with Bitcoin, it's peer-to-peer. When I send my money to you, it's going directly in between us. It doesn't have to go through any sort of, any server bank or any bank, which is crazy. So just for kind of sake of respecting the prophecy brought on, it's kind of become a religion, by the way, within the crypto community, this sort of anonymous Satoshi Nakamoto individual. But this was the original white paper released in 2008. Just to read the top line here. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending, meaning essentially copy-pasting your money. So Bitcoin allowed for having money that you cannot copy-paste, digital scarcity. It's really brilliant. And this might be a large logical jump, but that kind of makes it essentially intrinsically valuable. Because let's look at the idea of gold. It's useful now in electronics, but back in the day, gold didn't really have any use or value. You can't make weapons with it. You could only really wear it as jewelry. And the reason it was worn as jewelry is because it was a sign of wealth, because gold was intrinsically valuable simply because it's scarce, exactly. There's not a lot of it. And so therefore we could tie on a value to it because we know that it will maintain its value. Bitcoin now has created digital scarcity. So maybe it's not physical, but it's something scarce that we'll be able to attach value onto. And now we can transfer also that sort of idea of digital scarcity to other things, which is interesting. So now we're going to take a quick technical look. I hope you're up on your calculus. Just kidding. I don't even know.
Looks like you're rhyming.
That was in the white paper down far. But we are going to look at exactly how Bitcoin works. With the largest buzzword of the since the internet, the blockchain. What exactly is the blockchain? Well, as I was mentioning before, we need third parties to look over the ledger of essentially who owns what. Think of a ledger like just a list of transactions, like an Excel sheet. This person owns this amount, this person owns this amount.
I think Keith owns that one.
Exactly.
Just couldn't help yourself.
In the past, in order to verify that fraud was not being committed, we would have to give up this trust of looking over the ledger to a third party, a bank or PayPal or whatever it is. But they could go in, they could fudge it. We have to trust someone else, and that's never good with your money. So, blockchain is this idea of distributing that ledger, that Excel sheet, that list of transactions globally, all over the world, and as many people as want to see it, they can. And so this verification process is happening on this decentralized, that's another buzzword that doesn't, it's kind of hard, it doesn't mean a lot, but this decentralization essentially means that thousands of people that are uncorrelated, that they can't really collude, are all verifying this singular source to make sure that fraud is not occurring. It's a brilliant solution. And this allows for that digital scarcity and for transactions to go without people double spending. So this means that the blockchain is working with this sort of consensus mechanism that thousands of people worldwide, not really people at the computer, rather, they're really smart computers that they own that are working in the background all the time, are verifying for them. They're all working to have this generalized consensus that yes, actually you do have this money and you're able to spend it to this person. And now your actual name is not on the blockchain, it's just a bunch of numbers and letters, but there is an account that you own, and that account has a certain amount of money, and the whole entire community of miners and nodes, which are just technical terms for people's computers, will check and verify that you could actually send that money to wherever you want to send it. It's really, really interesting. So why the name blockchain? Because I'm using the term distributed ledger. Well, we needed another quick animation that kind of describes that. So we have the ledger, list of transactions, distributed consensus of people making sure that it's fraudless. And now we're adding new transactions in what's called a block. So these are new transactions, and once it's verified, we add it to all the transactions or all the other blocks that have ever existed ever in time. So ever since the first Bitcoin blockchain was made, there was an initial block, and those had new transactions on it. And then every 10 minutes, we have new transactions being added to this block, and we literally chain them together like a long chain of blocks. So blockchain. Blockchain actually doesn't have much to do with sort of the really core basis of what blockchains are, but it's just the buzzword that caught on, so we use it. But you could go back at any point in time and view exactly what the account's value is. So if I have someone's wallet, I could go into a blockchain explorer and see exactly how much Bitcoin is in there right now and all the past transactions in it. It's a completely open financial system.
So this file, would that be like a gigabyte size?
Oh, it's now reached nearly 200 gigabytes. So it started pretty small, but then it kind of it just expands over time, and so that's actually somewhat of an issue at the moment to have a lot of people, because a lot of people can't store 200 gigabytes on their computer, so you have to use specialized computers in order to store this blockchain. So we could definitely get into that more in the questions, please. So now crypto assets. Blockchain is a underlying technology of Bitcoin. I'm sure you've heard this a lot before, but it's not necessarily fundamentally tied to just Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto, they group created blockchain in order to make a Bitcoin possible, but this sort of underlying distributed ledger technology could be applied to so many other things, not even necessarily financial. So the first use case was obviously fintech. It was sort of the lowest hanging fruit because it was easy and people like money and there's a lot of hype around it, and et cetera, et cetera. But there's a lot more metaphorical fruit to that tree. I'm like infinitely. It's just kind of like asking what's the potential of the internet. You could just do anything one could dream of. Anything that would benefit from taking a central authority out of the situation would benefit from a blockchain. So some really big things, obviously, we already have finance, things like cloud storage, data usage, if you guys are familiar with that kind of whole problem. We'll actually go into that a little bit later. Things like healthcare is super big, voting, insurance, real estate is a really big one. I'll actually ask about that right now. Quick example is tokenization of assets. So imagine, you're walking down the street and you see the Salesforce building, you guys know, in San Francisco. You think, wow, I really think that has a lot of future, a lot of potential. It would be so cool to invest in that, but there's no way because that building's worth, I don't know how many billions. But what if you were the owner or some sort of company that owns the building, and you took a chunk of the building, not quite literally like the first or second floor, but you split up the building into many different pieces and correlated it with a token. So now you have tokenized, essentially breaking apart this building into kind of like how shareholders own a company. Now suddenly a ton of people could own this asset, take piece in the value of a certain asset, and it doesn't have to necessarily be real estate. It's really any asset, cars, art, music, whatever it is. You could tokenize it, split it up, and allow other people to be essentially take advantage of perhaps the value increase in that asset. So imagine, owning a piece of the Mona Lisa or a slice of the Dark Side of the Moon album. This could be possible with tokenization. Another quick example of a huge value prop for the blockchain is, the distributed ledger technology in general is, you've probably all noticed, it seems like every day there's some sort of data breach that's happening, and the reason why that this is a common occurring theme that just seems so ridiculous is because all of our data is on these centralized servers, Facebook, Equifax, Yahoo, Google. They all have all of our data, personal identities, and a ton of it on their own servers. And so hackers just see that as a complete honeypot of value, right? Because in this information age, what is coming of value is data. Like, it's not necessarily, it's money, but also the data around an individual will allow you to advertise to them in a more efficient way. And so therefore, these sort of networks that we are creating that we get for free, what we're actually paying for them with is our identity, our data that allows them to advertise better to us. So now all this data is on just their servers, and so hackers are just scooping it up. And it's really just a kind of cat and mouse sort of situation of just trying to get better security, but it will always occur more and more. And so the problem is, as I was saying, it's a centralized solution to what should be a fundamentally decentralized program or protocol. And so one way of going about it would just be having a decentralized Facebook. These things probably won't happen, like trying to put the blank, whatever sort of X and put it on the blockchain is very kind of common now. Like, Google and Facebook have their very much ingrained technologies, but I think that they're going to see definitely some shaking up within their industry, because people are just kind of having enough of getting of being owned online, right? It's really fascinating that we're just kind of becoming aware of this idea of what it means to have a free social media account. Because, for example, Kodak was the picture company, was worth $25 billion in its peak and had 5,000 employees. Instagram was sold to Facebook for $1 billion, but only had 13 employees. Obviously, there was some inflation different times and whatnot, but are those 13 employees really that efficient? Like, where did all that extra value come from? And the fact is that it came from the network itself. There's those 13 employees that worked on distributing this platform for other people to put their data on, but the real value came from the users putting in their data. And so Facebook bought all that. But the thing is, those people are giving that up for free. We are giving up all of our data for that for free. And so it's like Facebook essentially owns a piece of you online, and they're able to profit from that. So going forward, a super big application is sort of this owning your identity on the internet in the cyberspace and being able to profit from that. Maybe you take a survey and you make money back. It's already starting to happen. And I couldn't talk about crypto assets without talking about the infamous ICOs, another sort of buzz term. ICOs stand for initial coin offerings, somewhat like an IPO, but much less legit. And a lot more scams. But so essentially, let's say you are a cryptocurrency company and you want to create a decentralized Uber called Duber, and we want to raise money. So what we do is we create a bunch of tokens, and maybe we could use those tokens within our network, but also we could just use it as a way of raising funds. And we distribute, let's say, 30% of those tokens to the public, and we'll keep 7% for internal use. And we'll sell that out for $30 million, and people will be able to invest early with hopefully the hopes of it rising in value, just sort of like getting on the ground floor of any company. And you will also be able to have your users have skin in the game. So imagine you're taking part in a new network early on, like maybe with Facebook. You don't really get any value back by being an early adopter. But now you could own their tokens, work with their tokens, and as you use that network, over time, maybe the value of that coin will increase because the value of the network increases, right? And so that's the incentivization for the consumer to buy it, or the investor. And the incentivization is for the company is to raise funds and also have their users have skin in the game, essentially be incentivized to use their network more and more. And so we've seen this ICO craze kind of really happen in 2017. Billions of dollars were invested, and I mean, this gives a cool graph of sort of exponential growth. But I mean, we're seeing in the market, percentage of increases of 1,000% in a couple weeks. So people were getting this was gold rush times 10, and so as you can see, it was absolute chaos. And by now we're already up to $20 billion in funds raised. This only went up to November 2017, and so. This was kind of probably, if you're interested in the blockchain space at all, you probably have heard about ICOs and all the people getting wealthy off of it. Because even right now, with the current crash that we've had, which, Bitcoin's nearly $3,500, which is ridiculous. That's still a ton of money for just being only a decade ago it came out. This has still been the most lucrative investment in human history. If you were to invest, even just with Bitcoin being $1, the most lucrative investment in human history possible. It's absolutely fascinating, crazy phenomenon. And we're kind of actually just kind of dealing with a philosophical question of what is value just in general, and I think it's super fascinating. So now onto the investing piece, more of the Okay, so why crypto markets? Well, as we're talking, it's an emerging market with a lot of new exciting technology getting on the ground floor of this. It would be like getting on the ground floor of the internet. It's an uncorrelated asset. So for you investors out there, this is super fascinating. Pretty much all assets out there in the world are correlated to other assets in some way. So, if the stocks go down, then gold will go up or stabilize, or vice versa. And this means they're correlated, and therefore you have to think about that. But cryptocurrencies, since they're so new, are actually uncorrelated to any other financial asset. So, in fact, actually putting Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency in your portfolio decreases your risk, which is crazy. So a lot of people are actually financially advising people to maybe put a couple percent because it decreases your risk overall because it's completely uncorrelated. It's very volatile. For a lot of people, that's scary, but for investors, that's just an opportunity, right? If you're seeing these swings of 1,000%, that's just a large opportunity. Rapid growth, as I mentioned before, this is the most valuable investment in human history. So, and it's happening very quickly. You're seeing upswings of 30% or downswings of 30% in a day. That's just very common, but in the financial world on Wall Street, that would be ridiculous to see in a year. And these sort of bubbles and pops are happening in much shorter spans than in the usual economy, which is interesting. So it's kind of happening quicker, and massive potential for disruption. So a lot of these companies are seeing that, well, this could come in and disrupt their space, and so it's important to understand, learn, and invest if you're interested, and maybe hop in on possibilities. So who's looking ahead? A lot of big companies actually, and even though if some of their CEOs are actually just are spouting bad things about it, on the inside they're actually investing on it. Yeah, like Jamie Dickhead, yeah, exactly. He's lost on his last name there. No, so a lot of these guys are building a lot of big stuff. But just a quick word on this. This is most of this is all just BS. Like, if a company this big is talking about having a truly decentralized ledger, like that's BS, because that's just the way for them to get in on sort of the key buzzwords. But they would never actually give up the control, because that would quite literally mean their downfall. So
what was it that Foursquare or Squaresoft actually got in on something that was genuinely decentralized?
I'm not sure actually.
It was something about that. They were the first ones to. It was all over the news. They were the first ones to actually give up the reins and
that's cool.
Hand it over, and they're like, all right, yeah, we'll
And like hopefully just take value from that.
It could be a private blockchain. I don't know for sure, but I mean that was the banner they were waving at least.
Very cool.
What do they do then? Because they are a high investing sector, right? Financial services and blockchain. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, they're doing their own, they're doing a centralized version of it, like Ripple.
Yeah, so like Ripple. So
centralized for private?
Yeah, so they're trying to use the sort of there's no reason. The blockchains are much slower than the traditional database. They're kind of really dumb, and so there's no reason to use one as an internal ledger. Plenty of companies have much quicker databases. So if they're saying, oh yeah, we're creating a private blockchain, that's just a way for them to just increase their stock price. Actually, a really funny thought that just came was this one company called Long Island Iced Tea put blockchain in their name, so blockchain Long Island Iced Tea, and their stock value went up 300%.
Yep.
And they had literally nothing to do with blockchain, but it's decentralized iced tea. So
you know when they did it? December.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, just I don't know. I'm very wary of any private blockchains, because that would just mean their downfall. So just kind of more notes on exactly why this is a good time. This is a traditional graph of penetration of a market with any technology. You see this pretty commonly, and this is where we are right now. So still very, very early on, and we're about to see an exponential influx of users, which is crazy. Another great way to demonstrate that is the rate of adoption of technologies in the U.S., and Bitcoin is here. So,
So cute.
quite some time, yes. And this is good practice, just some general investing guidelines. This is not necessarily about cryptocurrency, this is just in general. Never invest more than you're willing to lose, because you probably will lose it at some point in cryptocurrency. Do not invest based on emotions, because then you will tear your hair out. Always do your own research, because the acronym. This is super big, and this is one of the reasons why we created Goodbit in general, is because there's just so many scams going on, and so many ways for people to sort of have this really just beautifully written up white papers or great design, and no one really knows exactly what's going on, and this is so shifting as it goes that it's really tough for your average investor to actually verify if something's legit or not. But for all you possibly can, you gotta do your own research. Never take a YouTuber's word for it, never take Twitter's word for it, never take
Rude.
never take that weird uncle
You're on
from
YouTube right now.
that weird uncle at the Thanksgiving advice. You gotta always do your own research.
I think we are the weird uncle at the thing.
Yes, yes. And I'm the
You
weird cousin.
certainly are.
Ryan definitely is, yeah. Crazy uncle. I second that.
And diversify. Obviously, everyone knows the term. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So diversify between different classes of cryptocurrency, and also, if you're doing a generalized investment portfolio, hopefully you invest in other assets besides cryptocurrency. So good practice, crypto specific. Expect volatility. As I said, 30% in one day is just a walk in the park. It's pretty common within the cryptocurrency world, and that could cause a lot of stress for a lot of people. Tread carefully. This is a new space without much regulation. It's getting a little bit better, and the government's stepping in a little bit more, but we really have like no official say from the SEC. They're just kind of like, yeah, most of them are. We think they're securities, but also these are completely new asset classes, so they'll probably have to really work to build something new. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, legally, you are taxed a capital gains tax every time you do a trade within cryptocurrency, and most people don't realize that. And that's a lot of tax. So most people just don't talk about that.
That's why we
Just don't put it, because the government can't really trace some of it. If you go through Coinbase, they're going to trace it, but for most purposes, it's harder to trace. So, but you might as well not take risks. I mentioned scams, and security is number one. This is something very crypto specific, because in the traditional investment world, you have a broker or someone you go through, and you don't really have to worry about security per se. But in this world of owning your money, of truly owning your money, not having it in a bank somewhere, not having it in someone else's hands, that also means that there's more responsibility on your side of the court there, because now you own essentially the keys to your wealth, and if someone gets those keys, then they could take your wealth. There's no callbacks. There's no one to call up on the phone and have the bank, revert some sort of transaction. So security is super, super important. Do not ever keep your cryptocurrency on an online exchange when you're buying it. Take it off and put it on what's called a hardware wallet, cold storage, something that's not connected to the internet. And we could talk about that in the questions.
I was on the phone for Bitcoin help desk forever.
It's like it's totally inhuman.
Good point. So Bitcoin is not a corporation. There's no CEO. There's no help desk. No one's gonna help you there. So.
And they have zero debt.
They have zero debt. That's true. Yeah. Get it now. And my last piece of advice is the infamous HODL, which some people have tried to put sort of an acronym on it as "Hold on for dear life," but it was actually came out of this really drunk person being on the Bitcoin forums back in the day accidentally spelled hold wrong. And
that's great. Are you serious?
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Spelled hold wrong.
That's
It just
outstanding.
crashed,
It's
and-
4. Wow. All right.
Even
And
better,
so
right? Even better.
it just stuck.
It
And
did
so
stick.
it's just sort of this culture within the cryptocurrency blockchain community to hold no matter what. There's some really hardcore people who've gotten very, very wealthy off of just simply saying, you know what, I believe in this so much that it's not a point of making money. It's just fundamentally like I believe in this in the long term, because most people would have definitely sold at the first pop, which is $32. It went up to $32, crashed down to $2. It went up to $200, crashed down to $50. It went up to $1,200, crashed down to around $100. And now we went up to $19,000, and it's crashed down to around $3,300. So it's this continuous sort of fractal that's happening. It's like over and over, pop, pop, pop. And most people would go, holy shit, I just got 32x on my $1. Like you're out. Or maybe when it crashes back down to 2, you're like, this is ridiculously risky. Now fast forward to December 2017, and people probably not having the best of days. So it's just probably best to not get emotional about it, maybe put it away, and if you really have done your fundamental analysis and truly believe in it, you should just forget about it and just let go, depending on your investment techniques. But kind of on this point, I wanted to sort of get that macro view of the price in general. And so this doesn't look too hot. This does not look very good. This is $19,000, and this is where we're currently at as of today. And that looks like just one massive bubble. Like there's just this one singular event, and Bitcoin's dead forever, which people have been saying since the dawn of Bitcoin, and that's never been true. But actually, what I'm about to show you is if you really pull in on this, you actually see there's another one there that happened in 2014, another one there. But it's all a matter of just of relative perspective, right? So if we change the graph to a logarithmic graph, which essentially is taking into account the percentage change, right? Not the actual price change, because the price of $19,000 compared to 1 is a huge difference on that sort of graph. But when you're just comparing the actual percentage change, you realize we're actually still on this upward trajectory. It's really, there's nothing to be worried about at the moment, in my personal opinion. We're simply just kind of over time, as far as the percentage-wise goes, it's all just relative to itself, right? And so maybe it might be $1 million, and we'll be looking back on this bubble going, wow, like how that's so different, and it might be just dwarfed in the chart compared to the bubble at $1 million. So it's really interesting. We haven't really ever seen an asset class do this before. And just to demonstrate that a little more, this is the 2013 to 14, 2014 to 17. This is this on this chart. So this guy, it's sort of a fractal. If you guys are familiar with fractals, and this is the next pop. So this is climbing up to it's at 16,000 there, but that'll be reached 19,000, and then that will also pop. So it just sort of keeps zooming in and zooming out. So Naval Ravikant is a kind of a person within this space, but this has been said before, but he sort of popularized it. He said, money is the bubble that never pops, which is kind of an interesting thought, right? Money is sort of, again, as I was mentioning before, it's an idea. It's a collective belief system that we're all putting our value set into. It's not necessarily intrinsically value in any way. And so therefore, it's hard for it to sort of pop in a sense, right? Because the internet was an asset that we were putting our money into. And so therefore, as soon as that got too scary, we pulled our money out of it. But this is different this time. What's happening is we're taking one value set, one money, paper money, and we're simply transferring it to a different value set. We're not investing in an asset class. We're simply transferring our idea of value to a different idea of value. So this is not financial advice in any way. Do not record me and say, this guy told me to invest. But I think it's super interesting. What we might be seeing is just this continual pop and pop and pop, and maybe it might stabilize over time, but I think it's going to be unlike any sort of asset class we've ever seen before. And I want to leave you with this thought, just to kind of also pull ourselves back in this very deep and depressing winter that we were having. This is a quote from 1995 in the Newsweek about someone talking about the internet. Clifford Stoll saying, There's no way an online database will replace your daily newsletter. No CD-ROM can take the place of a competent teacher, and no computer network, talking about the internet, will change the way governments work. And 2018, we realized just how truly wrong that statement was. And people are making very similar statements about blockchain right now. So, there's a lot of kinks to work out. It's definitely a wild, wild west, but I think the future going forward is just going to be nothing but full of opportunity and very fascinating.
Someone stole his thunder.
So, any questions?
No.
All right. Well, what the hell does your company do?
So that the animation that you saw, we essentially make it really easy for people to onboard into cryptocurrency safely, and making it really easy to learn about it in general. So there's so much confusion in this space. So you come to it, and it's a sort of authority site to take you through the learning process, to coach you on what wallet you should be using, what exchanges are legit, and all these sort of things.
How do you make money?
Well, at first we were actually a nonprofit, but then some investors kept persuading us, and eventually sort of caved into this more of an in-between, a B Corp. But we make money off of affiliate usage. So we say, okay, you know what?
Referrals?
Yeah,
Marketing.
referrals. We do believe in Coinbase as a really easy way for people to get involved.
But everyone you sign up, you get.
But everyone we sign up, we get some money back. And we were very explicit about that on the website. Like, hey, you get $10 off, we get $10 when you sign up, and this is how we sustain as a company.
Yeah, we hear about BACT, B-A-K-K-T, and then we hear about an ETF. Can you tell us what they're gonna sell and when they're gonna sell it?
I have no idea. I'd be like, I don't know the ins and outs of the SEC and how that, but the ETF has been on the books, and so many people have been trying to do it for years now. The Winklevoss twins, who are the original Facebook creators, are probably the closest to getting it done. But you could be, there is already indexes and ways for you to be exposed to Bitcoin without actually owning it, but I don't see the difference there. It's sort of a security preference if you're just kind of don't want to deal with actually owning Bitcoin, but I don't know why anyone would want to do that.
I think it's just for regulation that they require there to be some kind of paper or a physical item to hold in custody. That's what this is all about. We all know that a Bitcoin is still, kind of this thing that you can't touch it. You can't, I mean, you can touch your hardware wallet, but you can't touch a Bitcoin. But it does exist. Well, this is a way to turn this piece of paper into something precious that represents the Bitcoin, and this is what satisfies the institutional investment.
It's true, and it just depends on your sort of philosophical perspective. Like some people might believe that, like gold, the sort of the papers that are distributed that represent gold but aren't actually gold is kind of a bunch of BS. And so it's like, would you rather own the Bitcoin itself or something representing the Bitcoin?
I don't want to know that the block is somewhere else.
But so I mean, it's a way for traditional institutions, big hedge funds, to get exposed to that asset because there, as you mentioned, a huge custody problem. Because hedge funds, they're supposed to have 100% probability that they are able to keep security on whatever they're investing in. But with Bitcoin, it's even if it's like 99%, there's always still some chance of some hacker being able to get it. And so there's been this huge sort of dealing with custody and insurance, and Goldman Sachs and Coinbase and all of them are. There's a lot of really big players trying to put a lot of money in.
I'm curious about the tokenized blockchain insurance that goes along with owning cryptocurrency, and if that's a side industry.
It is actually. There are cryptocurrencies out there that are up and coming that exist for that purpose.
'Cause that's insurance.
Yeah.
It's very different insurance, but I mean, wow.
Talking about insurance of loss of cryptocurrency? Or
Yeah, insurance against hacking the blockchain.
Yeah.
That's what Douglas wants to
Well,
do.
you can't actually hack the blockchain. You can hack someone's individual.
Thank you,
You can hack their computer, which has their exchange open. You can hack the exchange, but you can't hack.
It's my understanding blockchain has never been hacked, but companies that are on the blockchain have been hacked. Just like
On the
the
edges,
VA has
coming
been
in and coming
hacked
out.
because their security hasn't been up to par, but the blockchain itself has never been hacked.
Yeah, so Bitcoin's blockchain is super interesting. I forget what billionaire it was, but was interested in getting into Bitcoin back in 2013 and hired a couple of the best developers he could find in the world, paid them $1 million to hack Bitcoin, and they just couldn't do it. Paid them another $1 million, and they just couldn't do it.
What about quantum computers?
So yeah, I thought this question would come up. Quantum computing is actually, it seems like a huge threat to what's called SHA-256, which is the way that we encrypt on the blockchain. We don't need to get into that, but essentially, like if a computer, a quantum computer, is able to instead of working with just binary, it's able. I think that's a tangential thought, but essentially we're okay because we've already created quantum resistant ledgers, and by the time quantum computing actually comes out and becomes a real technology, we're pretty far away. I think we will have evolved by then, because again, all these are open source protocols that we can always continually develop on it. So it's not like we have to wait for some company to push out the new firmware update. Whoever comes up with the best solution, if it's a 12-year-old in Zimbabwe could push that update, and the whole world could utilize it. It's a completely decentralized way of finding the best solutions possible. But there was a point that you can't hack the blockchain. You cannot hack fundamentally a blockchain. You could attack a blockchain if they're using a proof of work, which is to say, if you get 51% of all of the computing power, you could try to sort of double spend, but that will quickly ruin the blockchain that you're hacking, and then in fact all the money you just got will probably go down to zero, and so it'll be kind of worthless. and also at the same time, you can't just manifest millions of dollars out of nowhere. So Bitcoin's pretty much unhackable. But where you've seen, Bitcoin hack, $500 million, Mt. Gox, all this stuff, these are centralized entities that are acting as honeypots still. So it's like you're having your keys and you're giving your keys to these individuals that make it easy for you to buy and sell. And someone's coming into their servers and stealing all the keys, which is essentially stealing all this money. They're not actually hacking Bitcoin, they're hacking a company that's storing a bunch of keys for people.
Thank you.
So,
Well said.
So okay, so when you came here, you're literally preaching to the choir. But
Yeah.
so I guess I don't understand what your B Corp. So it's just educational, and then
Yeah,
you guys just make money by signing people up for Coinbase?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with, we
That
usually
sounds
don't
really bizarre to me.
It's totally
No,
bizarre.
it's not bizarre, it's called affiliate marketing.
Well-
It's
well-
fantastic
Well, and then
revenue.
how do you reach people?
Yeah,
to
so
do
usually
that?
I don't preach to the choir. Usually
He comes to places
He
like
gives
this, he
presentations?
gives information,
Oh,
and for free, I'll give you this information, and you know what, you sign up, I sign, it's a win-win.
facilitates a
It's
need that
affiliate marketing,
provides a
Brian,
service, yeah.
everybody does it.
Just to clarify, our business is not going and giving presentations. We're a website that has YouTube channels and all this stuff. So it's like if you've ever heard of NerdWallet, they help you sort of guide you through.
He
modern
gives
day
free
finance. It's like that
educational
for people.
information.
But I'll just give a talk every once in a while for friends. or
Plus, if you
whoever
think
wants
about the
to.
ratio of people that know nothing compared to the people
Because
that do
the
know
more
something.
people that hit his website, they might
Okay.
accidentally click on this link that signs them up for
Oh,
Coinbase.
okay, so it's a website and it's an affiliate model. And
Right.
do you have any other affiliates besides,
Yeah, most of the really legit companies in the space have affiliates. So Ledger, Trezor, all of those.
Oh.
so you're affiliated with all those guys?
Yeah, we're partnered with them, and we also put our content on other people's websites, like CoinDesk. All of them will ask us, CoinMarketCap, want to have like an education hub on their website. We've already made all the content, so we just give them our API and just
Ah,
hook
okay,
on.
okay.
So yeah, it's just a way for us to just sort of spread the message in an honest way, and we're trying to create that sort of brand. There's not really like a lighthouse. It's so murky in this space, and it's just. there
But
needs
do you
to be
get
this-
paid to like review ICOs or?
No, so we stay far away
You
from
stay
that.
away from
because
that, okay.
That's the thing we're trying to.
You don't
kinda
get
away
paid
from,
to
is the
do
sketchiness. No,
it's just you feel competent to want to report on this and this is what you guys are passionate
Yeah,
about.
we're not
It's not
necessarily
like I
a
got
news
paid to
source.
report.
No, yeah, we're not a
Okay.
news source, and we're not saying, oh, because we get more money from Coinbase, we're going to recommend them over you. It's like, this is what we believe is the most legit product, and even if we don't make money off it, we're still going to rate it as the highest. But if you happen to click on one of the links that makes us money, then we make money, right?
I'm not
And-
opposed to that.
Yeah, and so we were playing the long term game of a good brand versus
Yeah.
sort of making money, getting in and getting
And
out.
what's the brand?
Good
Bit.
Good
Bit.
Goodbit101.com.
Sorry.
And it's interesting because you're dealing in a like you said, kind of that lighthouse model of
Yeah.
a topic that is extraordinarily unfamiliar and daunting to most people.
Right.
And even the people that know about it, still DYOR, right? Like invest at your own risk. And so if you're able to establish that kind of de facto trusted name source, you're the guardian, just not in journalism kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
Do you have a
I think
YouTube channel?
Yeah, good bit.
Okay.
We have some of our past videos from the nonprofit was called BitBuddy, and now it's GoodBit. So and for example, a lot of credit card sort of affiliate websites help people pick out the best credit card or do the best mileage, whatever it is, because there's so much data and you have to scrounge and you have to get through it. And there's no way for an average consumer to get through that. People just want a quick
these
experience.
Snopes of
Click here, click here, click
cryptocurrency.
here.
Oh, don't even talk about Snoops.
Yeah,
That's
the
own,
points-
that's,
Oh,
Oh, is that
that's,
not it? I don't know.
oh,
don't know.
not, that is definitely not decentralized.
Oh, okay.
It
My
is
bad.
democratic,
It's owned.
funded, okay,
Do they have?
proven,
Try to make a point.
Do they
proven,
have,
Go- just
how
No,
did your site get traffic?
democratic, liberal.
Just general content marketing.
Not
So
even
when we put out
close.
videos, people
Paid.
come to it. Our investors are pretty well connected within the space.
Still, it's not
You
the
guys know
source
Augur?
anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
It used to
The
be,
guy who
but
created
it's not
Augur's
anymore.
invested
Just
in
like,
it.
wait,
So
I
just
don't
like,
know.
just generally tweeting it out,
Which one?
just spreading the word. Traditional content marketing, ad marketing.
Okay, so mostly SEO.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got an SEO team. But man, that's a whole ball of worms, so it's fun. I like SEO.
Who's the Augur investor? Is it?
Jeremy Gardner.
I had a different question. What's your response to those people who say that before something can be money, it needs to be a commodity? Like salt you can eat and
The
it's
what
used as
need,
money.
what thing we need?
Before you can use it, before you can use something as money, it has to be a commodity.
Okay.
So at least in the history books, like nails were used as nails before they were money. when salt was even before it was money, and gold you can like wear before it's money.
Bullets.
Yeah, but it was only really being worn because it was of value. There was literally no use to it before, because it's really shitty metal, up until electronics.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
so like it's still a commodity, though, right?
Yeah.
So a common argument that some conventional financial people have is that Bitcoin is not a commodity because Bitcoin in itself doesn't have, I can't, what, like I
But
can't.
a
is this
commodity
argument
is
for fiat
what
is
you
like that
define
Bitcoin-
as value, right? Like, if I define this to have value,
No, that's an asset.
it would have value among that whole entire thing, so.
The agreed value in
No,
Bitcoin,
commodity is different.
so I would say that
It's the same thing.
if, in
I
the
agree.
essence
I
of the
totally
argument,
agree.
right, in the essence of the argument, how many people have lost their wallet? Lots, right, like, you just have to acknowledge, some people have lost their freaking wallet, right? It's happened.
They say
In different
The-
countries.
the Bitcoin
Which-
wallet, the
which
Bitcoin
story-
wallet.
Oh,
The
oh,
Bitcoin
oh.
So you have
Oh,
money,
Bitcoin wallet.
physical,
Yeah,
actual
I
money,
was like,
that
yeah,
was
Bitcoin,
invested in
that's my wallet all the
Bitcoin,
time.
that is now irretrievable. It is now in essence part of Bitcoin, period, full stop, end of sentence, right? How is that not an inherent value that's been,
If you can lose it, then it therefore is. a
but it's still there,
commodity.
but it's still there, it's in the Bitcoin, and now that Bitcoin is not zero.
That doesn't make it a commodity.
Can't be.
It just makes it secure.
I'm just saying that's,
Is today's paper money a commodity?
No, but that's,
No.
those people would say the same thing about the dollar or the Federal Reserve.
So these are like hardcore.
Those
Yeah.
people that don't understand fiat.
Well, that.
Right, I mean, I think we all learned more about fiat when we started learning about.
Bitcoin, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Cause before then, we all believed that
I
paper
believed
meant
that I
something.
had money in my bank account
Yeah,
until
yeah.
I realized I really didn't.
Well, I mean, the thing is like with
And you gotta get in line.
as far as like taxis go, we never knew how much taxis sucked until we got Uber. All right, and so in my view, we all don't know how much money sucks until we now have cryptocurrency. All right, and so I don't know. That's why to me it's just a very fascinating, fun space. So everybody, let's give it up to the speaker. Oh, yeah, sure.
Brown speaker?
Maverick, you were talking about crypto assets. You didn't define that because,
Yes, my bad.
you know, could you just go a little bit
Yeah,
deeper
so
into
we
crypto
have,
assets?
people are using all these different terms, crypto commodities, cryptocurrencies, crypto assets. And so the sort of the consensus from the sort of industry at whole is the largest, the most